Hello and welcome back to the YouTube channel, and in today's video I'm going to be taking you through a full arm workout to help you build bigger arms. Now without all the fluff, without all the bullshit, no, not just chasing pumps, we're going to go all in today to build your biceps and your triceps. So let's get into it. So before we get into the first exercises, we need to break down the anatomy of the arm. So with your biceps, you've got your short head and your long head. These are the two key heads of the bicep that you want to be working if you want to build bigger biceps. Now with your triceps, there are three key heads: your lateral head, your long head, and the medial head. So with these exercises, we're going to be hitting all of these heads in this workout to make sure that you maximize the growth of your arms. So let's get into the first two exercises. So the first movement we're going to be working through is the behind the back D-handle cable curl. Now, because we're using a cable here, there's constant tension applied to the bicep, which is fantastic and probably shows why cables are actually better than dumbbells and more effective than dumbbells. But because the hand is starting behind the back, we start in this fully lengthened position here. So you get that nice deep stretch in the bicep and you curl through to here, slow on the way back. So the D-handle bicep cable curl is one of my favorite movements of building my bicep. So with this exercise, we're going to be doing 3 sets, 2 sets, 10 to 12, and then that final set is going to be our back off set, and that's going to be 12 to 14 reps. Now, one thing to note with all of these movements, and to be fair, all of your training in general, not just apply to this arm workout, but you have to train with intensity. Okay, you can't just be going through the motions, 3 sets of 10, getting through the workout and expecting results. You have to train with intent. That means pushing close to failure. That means applying progressive overload every single week, looking to increase your reps and your weights on a weekly basis, and just train damn hard. That's going to get you the results, not just going through the motion. So you'll see with this workout how hard we train and we push ourselves to that point of failure. So the second movement we're going to be focusing on is the single arm preacher curl. Now this targets the short head of the bicep. Now what we're doing here is by bracing against this pad, it eliminates any momentum. You see a lot of guys swinging the dumbbells around when they're standing up, but by working on the pad, the single arm preacher curl, doing it single arm for better alignment than if you were doing a barbell with both arms, but this really challenges that short head of the bicep and eliminates any momentum. Right, now onto the first of our 2 initial tricep movements. We're going to be starting off with the dual rope cable extension. Now, if you're wondering why I've got 2 ropes, it's because it's way better than just one. Let me explain why. If we just have the one rope here, we don't use the second rope, you'll see how we're quite limited in terms of our range of motion here. We're quite stuck. We're in this sort of quite tight, fixed position here and limited with the range of motion. But when you get the second rope involved, you'll see just how much more range of motion we get, and we can really start working the triceps how we want to. So 2 ropes, we can extend all the way through, get those hands right back past the legs, almost towards our hips, and we just have much more range of motion to get through. We can get the tricep in that fully lengthened position and then get all the way to the bottom, get it nice and short. We just have a much better range of motion to work through. So if you have access to 2 ropes to do this movement, I'd definitely get 2 involved. You can annoy some people at your gym by nicking both the ropes, but it just makes the movement 10 times better, and it'll be really effective for building that lateral head of the tricep. So something that's super important in terms of the actual execution of this movement, and you see a lot of people make this mistake. The upper arm is too involved. The upper arm is the thing that's pulling the rope down. It's the momentum. What you want to make sure you do is tuck that upper arm. Okay, the upper arm does not want to move. This part of the arm doesn't move. We're just hinging at the elbow. So keep that upper arm tight and then extend at the elbow. But notice how through the rep, the upper arm isn't moving. Okay, so keep the upper arm nice and fixed and just hinge at the elbow. Limit the momentum. Maximize the actual work that the tricep is doing. Okay, so the second movement in terms of our triceps, we're gonna be hitting the close grip bench press. This is fantastic for putting those triceps under a decent load, a decent amount of weight, and you target all 3 heads of the tricep here. So the key point is here with this movement is to keep the arms inside shoulder width, and you'll make sure it's, again, slow and controlled, that eccentric, before pressing up over your head. This is gonna take the weight off of your chest. If you were going sort of wider grip, it'd be more chest, but bring those hands inside your shoulders, and you're targeting more tricep. So with this movement, we're going to be working 2 sets, 8 to 10, 1 set back off set, 10 to 12 reps, and we're going to really try and apply more weight to this movement. As like I said earlier, it is a movement where we're targeting the triceps, but we can put them under a decent load. So make sure you go a little bit heavier on this one than you would on perhaps maybe your tricep extensions, for example. So on to our next couple of bicep movements. This is an absolute all-timer, one of my favorites, and that's going to be that incline dumbbell curl. So with this particular movement, what we want to be focusing on, getting those shoulders back on the pad, chest up nice and proud, fully supinated with our grip here. We don't want to be sort of rotating towards more of a hammer curl, fully supinated. Elbows again behind the body to work that bicep in the length and range. We want to curl to here. slow on the way down, arms fully lengthening out, fully straightening out at the bottom here. A lot of guys end up coming to here and then trying to make it easy for themselves and only just doing partials, but you want to come all the way to the bottom, fully straighten that arm, get the bicep fully lengthened, and then drive here. And again, working the bicep through that lengthened range. This is an absolute all-timer and one of my absolute favorites. So for our next bicep movement, we are actually going to be coming back to the cables and the ropes, but we're actually, for this movement, we're only going to be using one cable. Now what you want to do, bring the actual cable itself all the way to the bottom. And this is going to be a hammer curl, which not only targets the bicep, but it also targets our brachialis, our forearms. And with this one, it's more of a neutral grip, and we're curling up like so. Slow on the way down, again, constant tension in the bicep because we're using that cable. And this is also going to help build those forearms as well. So if you want that sort of forearm thickness, your hammer curls are going to be great for that. You could do dumbbell, but I love the rope hammer curl here using that cable stack. Right, now heading into our final two tricep movements. Again, we're going to favor the cables, we're going to favor the ropes here, but just in terms of cable setup for this particular movement, we're going to be doing an overhead tricep extension. Now, a lot of people actually get this wrong. They actually end up having the rope at the bottom, and that's really awkward to get into. But if you actually bring the cable up to around about your hip height, it makes it so much easier to actually get into the position of the movement, because what we're doing is we're turning around and we're going overhead with this movement. So extend up overhead, slow on the way down, and it's similar to that sort of tricep extension like that we were doing earlier. This time it's overhead, so we're working that long head of the tricep. Now what I was talking about earlier is if the cable was right at the bottom, you see how if you're trying to go super heavy with this movement or load up quite heavy on this movement, how awkward this is going to be to get the movement from this bottom all the way up to that top position. It's doable, but it's super awkward. So instead, you want to make sure that that cable stack is around your sort of hip height, and again, you see how much easier that is to get into that position. So the final tricep movement is going to be dumbbell skull crushers. Now, this movement's fantastic for targeting that long head of the tricep, but with the dumbbells, you get that sort of that freedom, that bit more, it's a bit easier on the wrists, a bit easier on the joints, whereas if you're in like a barbell, you're trying to do those overhead skull crushers, you are stuck in that kind of fixed position. With the dumbbells, you have a little bit more freedom with the movement, which helps with things like joint pain, etc. So again, not a movement that we can go that heavy on, because we're really isolating that long head of the tricep. So you want to sit back, lay down on the flat bench, and then extend overhead. So that is a full arm workout where we've really taxed both the triceps and the biceps. Now, just wanted to add to this, like, I personally wouldn't recommend doing a complete, like dedicating a whole day to your arms unless they are a weak point, which mine were. As you'll probably see from some of the photos that we attach here, my arms were a massive weak point for me. So I did increase the volume and, you know, really work my arms. Yes, I did arm days. Yes, I did, you know, much more volume, a lot more sets at the end of my workouts. I even trained them at the start of my workouts. If they are a weak point, rather than waiting to the end and just trying to tag them on at the end, get them at the start of that workout. You know, start of a push day, start of a pull day. And as you've seen throughout those sets, and as I touched on earlier, have to train with intent, have to apply progressive overload, otherwise they'll get absolutely nowhere. And one thing that is key is accuracy as well. Slow eccentric phases, really increase that time under tension, okay? These key tips here are gonna help you build your arms and build muscle in general, okay? So hopefully you found this video useful. If you did, drop it a like, drop me a subscribe. And if you actually reach out on Instagram and just DM me the word arms, I'll send you like my full arm guide, which has got all the sort of tips, tricks, details, all in one document. But if you do want a little bit more information on how we operate around here, how we get the results that we do that you've seen, you know, on socials and on screen now, then just click the link below. Okay, it's going to take you through to another video, a free training video on how we help guys drop body fat, build muscle. You know, if you're time constrained, you work, you know, you have busy careers, you know, you've got families, and you're pretty time poor. These are the exact guys that we help. So click the link below. If you want a little bit more information, that video is going to be perfect. But as always, make sure you like, drop any questions in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video.